What if I told you that the country America calls its number one enemy in the Middle East, the country it has sanctioned, threatening, and nearly gone to war with multiple times, was once its closest ally on earth? Not just an ally, a partner, a puppet, a country where American oil companies made billions, where the CIA operated freely, and where an Iran king literally called himself the best friend American ever had. So what happened? How does a relationship go from that to hostage, death chance, and death to America in just 26 years? Buckle up, because this story has everything. A coup, a king, a revolution, and one of the most humiliating moments in American foreign policy history. To understand the fall, you need to understand the rise. After World War II, Iran sat on one of the largest oil reserves on the planet, and the British, through the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, were taking almost all of it. Then in 1951, something happened that changed everything. A man named Mohammad Mossadegh became Iran's prime minister, and he did something radical. He nationalized Iran's oil. Basically, he said, this oil belongs to the Iran people, not to the British. The British were furious, the Americans were nervous, and together they decided Mossadegh had to go. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence launched Operation Ajax, a covert operation to overthrow Iran's democratically elected prime minister. They paid Iran's street gangs, they bribed military officers, they spread propaganda, and within days, Mossadegh was arrested and Iran's democracy was dead. And then he was replaced by Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, who was the king of Iran. He restored his full power, and then he was fully backed by the United States. The Shah opened Iran's oil to American companies. He bought American weapons. He welcomed American advisors. He even created a secret police force called SAVAK that used torture methods reportedly trained by the CIA. From Washington's view, the Shah was a perfect partnership, but from the Iranian citizens, their democracy had been stolen by foreign power. For the next 2 decades, the Shah ruled Iran like a man trying to turn it into a mini America overnight. He launched the White Revolution land reforms, women's rights, rapid industrialization. On paper, it looks like progress, but underneath, Iran was a police state. Thousands of political prisoners, dissidents, tortured and disappeared. The gap between the rich and the poor exploded. Traditional Islamic culture was being bulldozed to make room for Western values the people never asked for. And all the while, America kept sending weapons, money, and praise. President Nixon literally called the Shah the Iceland of stability in the Middle East. The Iran people had that differently. America does not care about us. America just care about the Shah. By 1978, Iran was boiling. Strikes, protests, millions in the streets. The Shah army killed hundreds of demonstrators. But that does not stop it. It accelerated the rage. On February 1st, 1979, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a radical Islamic cleric who had been living in exile, returned to Tehran. The crowd numbering in the millions. Within 10 days, the Shah's government collapsed. He fled Iran and never returned. The Islamic Republic of Iran was born, and its founding ideology had one central villain, the United States of America. Not just politically, spiritually, Khomeini called America the great Satan, the source of corruption, imperialism, and everything wrong with the modern world. For Iranians who remembered 1953, this was not paranoia. This was memory. Then came the moment that permanently destroyed the relationship. In October 1979, President Carter allowed the sick and exiled Shah to enter the US for medical treatment. To Iranians, this was a proof that America was sheltering the man who had oppressed them for 26 years. Then, on November 4th, 1979, the Iranian students stormed the U.S. embassy in Tehran. They took 52 American diplomats hostage. For 444 days, America was humiliated on live television. A rescue mission failed catastrophically. Helicopter crashed in the desert. The Carter presidency was destroyed, and Iran sent a message to the entire world. We are not afraid of America. The hostages were finally released the moment Ronald Reagan was inaugurated as the new president of the United States. This is what many historians call a deliberate final insult to Carter. The friendship was over. Officially, permanently, violently over. But here is the part that should make you think. A lot of the anti-American sentiment you see in Iran today, the chants, the flags burning, the confrontations in the Gulf, it did not start with religion. It started with a coup in 1953 that most Americans have never even heard of. America overthrew a democracy, installed a dictator, and called it a friendship. The Iran people remembered, and 26 years later, they made sure Americans also remember. That is how Iran, the best friend of America, becomes the biggest enemy of the United States.